Well, here he is joining us again, Matt Bovey from TaylorMade, discussing the latest edition of the P Series line of irons, the all-new P770s and P7 CBs. Matt, welcome back to the show.
Scully, it's so good to be here.
Man, it's so good to see you again, and I love these. A couple times a year we talk about the new irons, new gear that is coming out. Now, for these irons in particular, how long have they been in the works?
These are on the better part of 2 years, a little bit over 2 years. So again, like that's our typical development cycle. Doesn't matter if they're like your high tech game improvement style iron, or the subtle refinements that go into these better player products and having to really nail the shape and the sole geometries. We want to make sure like everything is just perfectly ready as we put it out into the market.
I absolutely love that. So we'll talk about both of these new irons. Let's start with the P770s. What's new with this model versus, say, the previous edition of the P770s?
Yeah, so P770 coming out in 24. There's a lot to love with this one. If I was to really boil it down into a quick answer, it's going to be more forgiving and it's going to feel significantly better. Essentially, what we wanted to do with the 770 is we wanted to shift it a little bit further from P790 and make it more for like a modern player's iron here. So if you want distance, you want forgiveness, you want to go towards 790, you're looking for control and you're looking for consistency, you're going down the P770 route. More compact head shape, but the long irons are more forgiving. It's got a new sole geometry that's going to give you better turf interaction. And we spent so much time really dialing in the feel of this product to give it more of a solid feel that better player demands.
And I understand there's also the modified leading edge. Tell us about how this
Mm-hmm.
helps the player as well.
So the leading edge is set up to where it's going to be a little bit sharper is the easiest way to describe it, and a little bit lower to the ground. It's basically going to cut into the turf a bit better. So this change is most prominent on the long irons, and then kind of like transitioning into the mid irons. Obviously, you need to have a little bit of a progressive design with your sole geometries through the set, but essentially it allows players to get into the ground better than they have been able to in the past. Obviously, you're not quite as steep with your long irons. We want to make sure we're able to cut into the turf and then manage that exit with the Solik.
What kind of player would you say should be giving the P770s a try? What is this iron generally meant for in terms of player and handicap, that sort of thing?
Yeah, if I was to put a handicap window on it, I would say 0 to 10 is really kind of the target consumer. Depending on your game, you can stretch there. I mean, you see tour players playing this in their long irons, so there's really not a floor. But if you're in that 10 handicap range or better, they're definitely worth a look. You get a lot of room to grow into the product if you're, say, high single digit. And if you're a low single digit and you have that consistency already, little forgiveness, easier to play, great feel. Like there's so much to love about this new model.
Oh, certainly a lot to love about it. I'm looking my chops just thinking about the possibilities. So that's the P770s. Let's now talk about the P7CB. First of all, what does that stand for?
Cavity back. P, so the players is the P, and then 7 series, and then cavity back.
Okay, Matt, so what would you say the differences are between the new P770s and the P7CBs?
So the P7CB is going to be a solid body construction. This forging process, again, there's so many details inside that we could do a whole thing just about our forging process. But this iron is a perimeter weighted solid body iron, premium feel, precision control, incredible workability. This is designed at, I would say, probably like a 5 handicap or better. You're going to see a lot of tour adoption of this. In fact, we've seen a lot of tour adoption already with this. Again, so like this is just a different type of performance with different priorities for a different player segment. Looks incredible and it looks inviting. There's a high level of forgiveness in this compact head shape, which drives consistency. And that's so important for the better player.
And definitely the goal with these irons in particular, improve precision, forgiveness, and consistency for the better player. Am I right there?
Yep, that's exactly right. So inside this forging, we've been able to really control how we move the mass properties around. Again, there's a lot to go into, but basically, what you're looking at there, there's more on the inside than what you're expecting. And in this 5 step forging process, we really utilize multiple materials. We forge them all together, which allows us to make this iron more forgiving than you would traditionally get inside this head shape. So again, this is going to give you a little bit lower ball flight than 770. It's going to give you more spin. It's going to give you a high level of forgiveness. It's just geared towards a slightly better player But I think you're going to see a lot of combo sets between the two of them as well. We set them up to do that perfectly from both a loft and visual standpoint.
You took the words right out of my mouth. That's what I was just going to ask you about combo sets because we've spoken many times talking about previous editions of irons where combo sets were definitely used a lot, and that's definitely going to continue here, you think?
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the tour players, and every one of our tour players is playing a combo set. You know, Rory, Tommy, Colin, Scotty. They all do it, and they're all looking for something that's a little bit more forgiving, and they hit a certain launch window and a certain carry distance at the top end of their set. So I think the better players are really starting to pay attention to that. And then we've also put more fitting tools out into the marketplace, so where you can get fit for a long iron specifically. So when you're talking with fitters, have that conversation of like, okay, where do I need to make this transition? What's my gapping look like? And it just again, better fit, better performance. You're going to play better.
Now, how much testing went into these new irons, both of them, before we've seen them now on tour and where we're at now, about to go on market?
A lot of testing goes into these products, both with our amateur player test panel. So we use a lot of like scratch golfers to go through and be able to do real player testing throughout the entire development. We think that's so much more important than just putting a club on a robot. People aren't robots. But also, we've been able to do a lot of testing with the tour players. We incorporated their feedback early on from a shaping standpoint. We're hearing trends that tour players are migrating more towards a compact blade length, but a little bit more sole width. That's exactly what's in P7CB when you compare it to our cavity style forgings in the past. And then again, like turf interaction and all of those things, the tour feedback is involved in there as well. So a lot of testing, also with the club pros. You know, your home pro staff, the guy that you would go out and that you would get a lesson from. We take their feedback very seriously. They're incredible golfers, but they also work with a lot of players on full ranges. So we talked to them about better players. We took some collegiate feedback, really across the board, and we incorporated that into both P7CB and P770.
Well, a lot of great excitement. I can hear it in your voice. Get ready
I'm
for
so
these.
pumped.
Oh man, I can tell. And we've had a couple of DMs too going back and forth about these new irons. These new irons are simply awesome. Matt, thanks so much for your time today.
Always great being here, man.